Hello everyone, welcome to our today's class of environmental science. In today's class, we will be dealing with structure and function of an ecosystem. So now, moving on, before discussing about structure and function of an ecosystem, let us first understand what an ecosystem is. We have already dealt with this in our previous class. In today's class, I will just give you a brief definition about ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? The living community of plants and animals in any area together with the non-living components of the environment such as soil, air and water constitute the ecosystem. Now, let us look into the structure of an ecosystem. Well, the structural aspects of an ecosystem are made up of the following components. The components that make up the structural aspects of an ecosystem include number 1, inorganic aspects. Inorganic aspects include the elements such as carbon, nitrogen, carbon dioxide and water. Moving on to the organic aspects, moving on to the organic compounds that affect or that make up the structural aspect of an ecosystem. The organic compounds include proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, etc. The climatic regimes also make up the structural aspect of an ecosystem. The climatic regimes include temperature, moisture, light and topography. Okay. So, the climatic regimes include temperature, moisture, light and topography. The fourth aspect of an ecosystem is producers. Okay. They are namely plants. Plants make up the producers. The fifth aspect is macro consumers. The fifth aspect is the micro consumers, namely phagotrophs, which are large animals. Okay. So, the macro consumers include phagotrophs, which are large animals. Next, we have micro consumers. We have micro consumers. For example, saprotrophs. For example, saprotrophs, absorbers, fungi. Okay. So, these are the micro consumers that make up the structural aspect of an ecosystem. So, what are the different structural aspects of an ecosystem? Inorganic aspects, organic compounds, climatic regimes, macro consumers and the micro consumers. Next, moving on to the functional aspects of an ecosystem. The functional aspect of an ecosystem involves energy cycle, food chains, diversity interlinkage between organisms, nutrient cycle or the biogeochemical cycles and evolution. They make up the functional aspects. Functional aspect of an ecosystem involves energy cycles, food chains, diversity interlinkage between organisms, nutrient cycle, biogeochemical cycles and evolution. Since each ecosystem has a non-living and a living part that are linked to each other, the non-living and the living parts which are linked to each other, one needs to look around us and observe these closely. This is an important aspect that is vital part of our life. Ecosystems are broadly divided into natural and artificial ecosystem. Okay. So, ecosystems are largely divided into natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem. Natural ecosystems are those that are existing in nature. They are further classified into terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. So, the natural ecosystem is further subdivided into terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. The terrestrial ecosystem includes hot deserts, grasslands, tropical and temperate rainforests, whereas the aquatic ecosystem includes ponds, rivers, streams, lakes, estuaries, oceans, mangrove swamps and bays. So, our ecosystem is divided into natural ecosystem and artificial ecosystem. Natural ecosystem is further divided into land ecosystem or terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem. Each of these types have been defined below. Now, there are these two ecosystems are self-regulating or open systems with a free exchange of inputs and outputs with other systems. Okay. So, these are examples of open ecosystem. Artificial ecosystems on the other hand are simple, man-made, hand-made, unstable and subjected to human intervention. Okay. So, artificial ecosystems are unstable and they are subjected to human intervention since they are made up by humans. Usually it is formed by clearing a part of the forest or grassland, for example, crop fields, for example, agricultural land. These are all man-made systems. Now, looking into the structure of an ecosystem. What is the structure of an ecosystem? An ecosystem has two components, the biotic component consisting of living thing and the abiotic portion consisting of elements that are not alive. Okay. So, the structure of an ecosystem is made up of two components, biotic components yani the living components, abiotic components are the non-living components. The non-living constituents are said to include the following category: habitat, gases, solar radiation, temperature, moisture, inorganic substance and organic nutrients. So, these are the non-living constituent of an ecosystem. Structure of an ecosystem is made up of biotic components and abiotic components. The abiotic components are constituted of habitat, gases, solar radiations, temperature, moisture, inorganic and organic constituents. The living organisms may be further subdivided into producers, consumers and decomposers. Okay. So, the non-living components are further subdivided into producers, consumers and decomposers. So, in this slide we had a short glance into the structure of an ecosystem. Now, we will look into details about the abiotic components. Let us learn a few details about the abiotic components. What are these abiotic components? The basic inorganic and organic components of the environment or habitat of the organism make up the abiotic components. Okay. The basic inorganic and organic components of the environment or habitat makes up the abiotic component. The inorganic component of an ecosystem are carbon dioxide, water, nitrogen, calcium, phosphates, etc. All of these are involved in matter cycle, also known as biogeochemical cycle, The organic component of an ecosystem are proteins, carbohydrates, lipids and amino acids. All of these are synthesized by the biota or the flora and fauna or the plants and the animals of an ecosystem. They reach the ecosystem through wastes and dead remains of the biota. The climatic, microclimate, temperature, light, soil, etc. are again the abiotic components. So, if we look into the abiotic components, they can be divided into inorganic components, namely carbon dioxide, water, nitrogen, phosphate, calcium, etc. The organic components include proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, amino acids, etc. These organic components are or they reach the abiotic part through the dead remains or the wastes of the biota. Biota means flora or fauna. The climatic or the microclimate and temperature, all of these come under abiotic components. Next, moving on to function of an ecosystem. What is the major function of an ecosystem? Ecosystem function is the capacity of natural processes and components to provide goods and services that satisfy human needs either directly or indirectly. Ecosystem functions are subset of ecological processes and ecosystem structures. Each function is the result of the natural processes of the total ecological subsystem of which it is a part. Natural processes in turn are the result of complex interaction between biotic or the living organisms and the abiotic or the chemical and physical components of ecosystem through the universal driving force of matter and energy. Okay. So, these are the functions of an ecosystem. There are 4 primary groups of ecosystem functions. Okay. Here we have seen the function in a broad manner. Okay. Now, if we go into simplifying or classifying the functions of an ecosystem, then there are 4 primary groups of ecosystem functions: regulatory functions, habitat functions, production functions and information functions. This grouping concerns all ecosystem. Okay. So, the 4 primary groups of ecosystem functions namely involves regulatory functions, habitat functions, production functions and information functions. Further, now let us look into each of these functions in detail. One by one we will look into all these 4 functions in detail. If we talk about regulatory functions, okay, what is meant by this regulatory functions of an ecosystem? This group of functions relates to the capacity of natural and semi-natural ecosystem to regulate essential ecological processes. Okay. So, what is this regulatory function? This group of function relates to the capacity of natural and semi-natural ecosystem. It is the capacity of natural ecosystem to regulate essential ecological processes and life support system through biogeochemical cycle and other biospheric processes. Okay. So, this is the major function of an ecosystem. How an ecosystem, be it natural or semi-natural, okay, be it natural or semi-natural, regulates or controls the essential ecological and life support systems through namely biogeochemical cycle and other biospheric processes. Okay. In addition to maintaining the ecosystem, so in addition to taking care of the ecosystem, these regulatory functions provide many services that have direct and indirect benefits to humans. Okay. So, biogeochemical cycles and other biospheric processes not only controls the ecosystem, it also provides many services and have direct and indirect benefits to humans, be it clean air, water, soil and other biological control services. So, this is how the regulatory aspect of our ecosystem benefits the human organism. The second function that comes under ecosystem or that governs, which is governed by the ecosystem, is habitat function. The natural ecosystem provides refuge and a reproduction habitat to wild plants and animals, and thereby contributing the conservation of biological and genetic diversity and evolutionary processes. Okay. So, the habitat function governs or protects the biological and genetic diversity. Moving on further, the other function of an ecosystem involves production. Photosynthesis and nutrient uptake by autotrophs converts energy, that is carbon dioxide, water and nutrients, into a wide variety of biological structures such as carbohydrates, which are then used by secondary producers to create an even larger variety of living biomass. The broad variety or broad diversity in carbohydrate structure provide many ecosystem goods for human consumption, ranging from food and raw material to energy resources and genetic material. So, this is how the production function of an ecosystem helps in not only making up the genetic material for other living organisms, but also providing energy resources, but also providing a number of food resources in the form of carbohydrates. These food resources are taken up by other living organisms to form larger biomass like proteins and lipids. The fourth function involves information functions. Now, since most of the human evolution took place within the context of an undomesticated habitat, okay, it is a known fact that the development has taken place in an undomesticated habitat. Natural ecosystem thus contributes to the maintenance of human health by providing opportunities for reflection, spiritual enrichment, cognitive development, recreation and aesthetic experience. Our environment talks to us. The only thing is we need to understand, we need to take up those information from the environment. Now, moving on to another very important characteristic, which is components of an ecosystem. The complete ecosystem consists of 4 basic components. Okay. If you look into our ecosystem, it consists of 4 basic components such as producers, consumers, decomposers and the abiotic components. Example, ponds. If any of these 4 components lack, then it is grouped under incomplete ecosystem. For example, that of the ocean depth of the ocean is considered to be an incomplete ecosystem. Cave, again it is an incomplete ecosystem because it lacks any one of the above components such as producers, consumers, decomposers and the abiotic components. What is meant by productivity in the environment? Well, the productivity of an ecosystem is the rate at which the solar energy is fixed by the vegetation of the ecosystem. How well the vegetation of our ecosystem fixes or captures the solar energy determines the productivity of the environment. It is further classified into primary productivity, secondary productivity and net productivity. What is this primary productivity? Primary productivity refers to the rate at which the radiant energy is stored by photosynthetic and chemosynthetic activity of producers. Primary productivity is the rate at which the radiant energy is stored by the photosynthetic and the chemosynthetic activity of producers. How the producers stores the radiant energy of the sun? Through photosynthesis, through chemosynthesis determines the primary productivity. It is further distinguished as GPP or gross primary productivity and NPP or net primary productivity. It is expressed in terms of weight per gram per year or the energy is expressed as kilocalorie per meter square. Secondary productivity on the other hand refers to the rate of energy which is stored at consumer level. Okay. So, primary productivity is the rate at which the sun's energy is fixed or tapped by the producer, whereas secondary productivity refers to the rate of energy storage at the consumer level. Okay. An understanding of ecology is essential in the management of modern industrialized societies in ways that are compatible with the environmental preservation and enhancement. Okay. So, that this is the reason why understanding of an ecology is essential. It is useful for management of the modern industrialized society. Look, making up a modern industrialized society is very easy, like we have been doing with blinded eyes, but maintaining it such that without disturbing the natural environment is again essential. This is possible when we understand ecology. Okay. Hence, understanding of ecology is necessary such that we could manage this modern industrial society so that it is compatible with the environmental preservation as well as enhancement. The branch of ecology that deals with predicting the impacts of technology and development and making recommendations such that these activity will have minimum adverse impacts. Okay. So, the branch of ecology that deals with predicting the impact of technology and development and making recommendations such that this technological development does not impact or has positive or negative impact on the ecosystem is defined as applied ecology. It is a multidisciplinary approach. As we have just seen, applied ecology deals with studying the interaction of the living organisms. So, interaction among living organisms are grouped into two major categories: positive interactions and negative interactions. Applied ecology deals with studying these two of the interactions, which is positive interaction and negative interaction. So, now we will be looking into each one of this one by one. What is this positive interaction? In this, the population helps one another. Okay. The population of an ecosystem helps one another, the interaction being either one way or reciprocal. These include commensalism or proto-operation and mutualism. Commensalism determines or is defined as one species derives the benefit while the other remains unaffected. Okay. In commensalism, one of the species is definitely benefited, the other remains unaffected. It is neither positive nor negative. Example, cellulitic fungi produces a number of organic acids from cellulose, which serves as carbon source for non-cellulitic bacteria and fungi. The next one is proto-cooperation. What is meant by this proto-cooperation? It is also known as non-obligatory mutualism. Mutualism, it is an association of mutual benefits, that is both the groups are mutually benefited to the two species, but without the cooperation being obligatory their existence or for their performance of reaction. For example, nitrogen can be fixed by azotobacter with cellulose as energy, okay, but without azotobacter also the plant can grow. Third one is mutualism, wherein interspecific interactions are more common among organisms. Here both the species derived benefits. For example, pollination by animals, example symbiotic natural fixations. Negative interactions, wherein member of one population may eat members of the other population, they compete for food. Okay. So, the first one under negative interaction is competition. It is a condition in which there is a suppression of one organism as the two species struggle for limited quantities of nutrients. Example, Fusarium oxysporum and Agrobacterium Radiobacter, they compete between each other for nutrients. Under negative interaction we have predation. It is a free living organism which catches and kills another species. They are called predators for food. Example, grazing and browsing of animals on plants. Carnivore plants such as Nepenthes, they consume insects and other small animals for foods. Protozoans feeding on bacteria. This is another example of negative interactions. Next we have parasitism, where parasite is the organism in the living body which affects that living organism negatively. For example, species of Cuscuta which grows on plants and they depend on that plant for nutrient or nourishment. Next we have antibiosis. It is the phenomenon of production of antibiotic. Example, streptomycin which is released by Streptomyces griseus, penicillin released by Penicillium notatum. This is known as antibiosis, wherein antibiotics are produced by these organisms, essential for human use. So, with this we finish up our topic about structure, function and components of an ecosystem. Thank you.